The Alturian fleet hung in orbit around Earth like a constellation of malevolent stars. 200 ships, each a mile long, their hulls gleaming with an iridescent sheen that spoke of technology far beyond human understanding. Admiral Drake stood on the observation deck of Lunar Command, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display showing the invaders. "They've taken 6 systems already," said General Wilson, her voice tight with controlled fear. "No casualties. On their side. Always the same pattern. Arrive, demand surrender, obliterate any resistance." Drake nodded grimly. The stories from the frontier colonies had trickled in over the past year. The Alturians had appeared from beyond known space, their technology so advanced that conventional weapons couldn't penetrate their shields. They called themselves the Eternal, claiming to have conquered 1,000 worlds across a dozen galaxies, and now they want Earth, Drake said. The transmission had arrived 12 hours ago. A single ultimatum: surrender within 48 hours or face extinction. The alien commander, who called himself Grand Executor Kal, had spoken with the casual arrogance of someone who had never known defeat. "They've never encountered humans before," Drake said, a dangerous glint in his eye. "That's their mistake." In the labs beneath Lunar Command, Dr. Lisa Reynolds worked frantically. The captured Alturian technology from a scout ship downed on Mars had given them precious insights. The aliens' shield technology operated on principles humanity had only theorized about: dimensional phase shifting that made their ships exist partially in another reality, rendering conventional weapons useless. "If we can't beat their shields, we go around them," she muttered to herself, fingers flying across holographic interface. "Project Orpheus might be our only shot." Meanwhile, in Earth orbit, Captain James Walker commanded the stealth vessel Nightshade, holding position in the shadow of an asteroid. His crew of 12 were the best Black Ops specialists Earth had to offer. Their mission: board the Alturian command ship and extract whatever intelligence they could before the deadline expired. "Suits, on weapons check," Walker ordered as they prepared to launch. The new phase shift suits, experimental technology based on the Alturians' own principles, might allow them to penetrate the alien ship undetected. As the small boarding craft detached from the Nightshade, Walker knew their odds were slim. But humanity had always thrived against impossible odds. Aboard the Alturian flagship, Grand Executor Kayal reviewed the data on the species they were about to subjugate. Humans, bipedal, oxygen-breathing, carbon-based, technologically inferior. Nothing remarkable compared to the hundreds of species the Eternal had conquered before. "They still believe they can resist," Kal told his subordinate, Commander Vor. "Primitive species always do until we demonstrate our power." "There is something strange about their communications, Grand Executor," Vor reported. "They seem almost calm. Previous species showed more panic at this stage." Kal dismissed the concern with a wave of his 4-fingered hand. "False bravado. Their history shows they excel at self-deception in the face of annihilation." What Kal didn't see was the small craft approaching his ship, its signature masked by technology the Alturians had never encountered before. Technology that shouldn't exist on a world of this development level. And in underground facilities. Across Earth, soldiers and civilians worked together to prepare humanity's response to the ultimatum. Not a surrender, but a plan of attack so audacious that it bordered on insanity. As Drake watched the alien fleet from his command post, he received word that Walker's team had successfully boarded the Alturian command ship. Phase 1 was complete. Now they needed time. Time for Dr. Reynolds to complete her work. Time for Earth's defenders to deploy. "Send the message," Drake ordered. "Tell them we wish to negotiate terms." Kayal would interpret it as the beginning of humanity's capitulation. He couldn't be more wrong. Captain Walker and his team moved through the alien vessel like ghosts. The phase shift suits worked better than expected, rendering them nearly invisible to Alturian sensors. The ship's interior was vast, with sweeping corridors that seemed to defy conventional architecture. "Central computing should be 3 levels down," whispered Lieutenant Ana Garcia, consulting the 3D map they'd constructed from scans. "If their systems are anything like the scout ship, I can create a back door." Walker nodded, signaling the team forward. They'd trained for months on simulations based on the captured ship, but the flagship was different, larger, more complex, and crawling with Alturian crew members. 7-foot-tall humanoids with pale blue skin who moved with unsettling grace. "These bastards sure like to build big," muttered Sergeant Ben Cooper as they passed through a cavernous chamber filled with humming machinery. "Compensating for something, I guess." No one laughed. The tension was too high. Back on Earth, Admiral Drake sat across from the holographic projection of Grand Executor Call, engaged in what appeared to be surrender negotiations. Each minute he stalled bought precious time for humanity's true response to take shape. "Your terms are difficult to accept," Drake said, his expression carefully neutral. "The complete disarmament of our military forces would leave us vulnerable to other threats." Kayal's lipless mouth twisted into what might have been a smile. "There are no other threats, Admiral. We have seen to that. Any species capable of interstellar travel in this sector has already joined the Eternal, willingly or otherwise. In orbit around Jupiter, hidden from Alturian sensors by the gas giant's massive radiation belts, a fleet of Earth's newest ships prepared for battle. They weren't impressive by alien standards. Smaller, less advanced, built with technology that should have been generations behind the invaders. But they carried Dr. Reynolds' secret weapon, the Orpheus device. Major Tom Riley paced the bridge of the Defiance, the lead ship of Earth's counterstrike force. 300 vessels hastily retrofitted with the new technology, crewed by volunteers who understood the stakes. "Status report," he barked. "All ships reporting ready, sir." His XO responded. "Orpheus devices primed and operational, awaiting your command." Riley nodded grimly. "Commence Operation Lazarus on my mark. 3 hours until we make the jump." Meanwhile, on the Alturian flagship, Walker's team had reached the central computing core, a chamber bathed in blue light emanating from what looked like a liquid crystal matrix suspended in midair. "I've never seen anything like this," Garcia whispered, already connecting her specialized interface. "It's beautiful." "Just get what we need and plant the package," Walker reminded her. Clock's ticking. As Garcia worked, extracting the Alturians' tactical data and planting false information that would confuse their sensors at the critical moment, Walker couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The aliens' technology was so advanced. Could they really be this blind to infiltration? His question was answered moments later when alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Not because they'd been discovered, but for another reason entirely. "Intruder. Alert in engineering section," announced an alien voice over the ship's communication system. "Security forces respond." Walker exchanged looks with his team. They weren't in engineering. "Someone else is on board," Cooper said, voicing what they all realized. "Or something," Walker replied. "Finish up, Garcia, we need to move." In the negotiation room, Drake saw Cal suddenly tense as the alien received information through his neural implant. "Your pathetic attempts at deception end now, Admiral," Cal snarled, rising to his full height. "Did you think we wouldn't detect your boarding party? Your species' arrogance will be your undoing." Drake maintained his composure. "I don't know what you're talking about." But internally, he was alarmed. Had Walker's team been compromised? Or was this something else? A wild card they hadn't anticipated. As if in answer, the lights in the negotiation room flickered, and for a brief moment the holographic projection of Kayal seemed to distort, revealing something beneath the alien's imperious facade, a flicker of uncertainty. For the first time, since the Alturians had appeared in Earth's sky, Drake felt a spark of genuine hope. Dr. Lisa Reynolds stood before the assembled military leadership in the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room was silent as she explained her discovery. "The Alturians aren't invincible," she said, pulling up a holographic model of one of their ships. "Their phase shift technology has a fundamental flaw, a resonance vulnerability. When exposed to a specific electromagnetic frequency pattern, their shields experience a cascading failure." General Wilson looked skeptical. "If it's that simple, why haven't other species discovered this?" "It's not simple at all," Reynolds countered. "The frequency pattern is impossibly complex, constantly shifting based on mathematical principles we barely understand. It took our most advanced quantum computers working in parallel to crack the code. She gestured to the Orpheus device schematics. Each device can target one ship by broadcasting the counter-frequency pattern. The effect is like a key unlocking a door. Their shields simply fold. On the Alturian flagship, Walker's team was racing against time. They'd completed their primary objective, but their extraction route was compromised by whatever had triggered the alarm in engineering. We need an alternate path, Walker decided, studying the ship's schematics they'd downloaded. Through the maintenance tunnels here. As they moved through the narrow passages, they encountered no Alturians. All security forces had apparently been diverted to engineering. But what they did find stopped them in their tracks. Bodies. Alturian bodies, at least a dozen of them, torn apart as if by some savage animal. Blue blood coated the walls and floor. What the hell could do this to them? Cooper whispered, his voice shaking. Before anyone could answer, they heard it. A low, rumbling growl that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Then, from the shadows ahead, something moved. Something massive. It stepped into the dim light, a creature the size of a bear but with 6 limbs, its body covered in sleek black fur. Its face was a nightmare of fangs and glowing red eyes. Walker raised his weapon, but the creature made no move to attack. Instead, it spoke, its voice a guttural approximation of human speech. Not enemy. Same goal. The team stared in disbelief. Walker found his voice first. What are you? Vex, it replied. Last of Corthan. Alturians. Destroyed our world. I hunt them. Meanwhile, the Earth fleet emerged from Jupiter's shadow, accelerating toward the Alturian armada. Major Riley's voice was steady as he gave the order. All ships execute attack pattern Delta. Remember, we need to get within 1,000 kilometers for the Orpheus devices to be effective. The human fleet moved in perfect formation, each ship carrying out its role in the battle plan. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had surprise and desperation on their side. Admiral Drake, still in negotiations, received word that the Earth fleet had launched. It was time to end the charade. Grand Executor, he said, interrupting Kyle mid-sentence. I want to be clear about something. Humanity will never surrender. Not today. Not ever. Cal's expression hardened. Then you have chosen extinction? No, Drake replied with cold certainty. We've chosen to fight, and you're about to learn what happens when you corner humans. The Alturian fleet reacted to the approaching Earth vessels with dismissive efficiency, deploying only a fraction of their forces to intercept what they perceived as a suicidal attack. They're not even bothering to take us seriously, Riley observed grimly. Good. All ships, hold your fire. Wait for them to get cocky. The first Alturian shots blazed across space, missing the agile Earth ships as they performed evasive maneuvers that had been practiced to perfection. The human fleet didn't return fire, not with conventional weapons. Instead, they closed distance, absorbing losses as several ships were hit. Aboard the flagship, Cal watched the battle with growing confusion. Why aren't they firing? What strategy? Is this? And then, as the Earth ships reached optimal range, Riley gave the order. Activate Orpheus devices. All ships, target your designated vessels and fire. Across the human fleet, the devices powered up, sending invisible pulses of electromagnetic energy tuned to the precise frequency to disrupt the Alturian shields. For a heartbeat, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like dominoes falling, the impenetrable Alturian shields began to flicker and fail. Chaos erupted on the Alturian flagship as alarms blared and emergency systems activated. Cal stared in disbelief at the tactical display showing his fleet's shields failing one by one. Impossible, he whispered, his composure cracking for the first time. Override the shield modulators, recalibrate the phase variance. His officers scrambled to comply, but it was too late. The human fleet opened fire with everything they had, railguns, missiles, and energy weapons that should have been harmless against Alturian defenses. Now, without their shields, the invincible alien ships were suddenly vulnerable. 3 Alturian vessels exploded in rapid succession, their hulls breached by concentrated human firepower. The rest of the fleet attempted to regroup, but confusion reigned as their communication systems suffered interference from the same technology that had dropped their shields. Clever apes, Cal snarled, realizing the extent of the humans' trap. All ships, engage emergency protocols, switch to backup. Shield generators. But the backup systems were just as vulnerable to the resonance frequency. The Orpheus devices continued their work, keeping the Alturian shields offline as Earth's fleet pressed their advantage. Deep inside the flagship, Walker's team had formed an uneasy alliance with Vex, the alien hunter. The creature led them through maintenance tunnels toward an escape route, explaining in its broken speech that it had stowed away on an Alturian supply ship, hunting Cal for years. Cal, destroyed 12 worlds, Vex growled. My home was first. What can you tell us about their weaknesses? Walker asked as they moved. Pride, Vex replied immediately. Never expect defeat. Never prepare for it. The ship shuddered violently, throwing them against the walls. Emergency lights flashed. Sounds like our fleet is making some noise, Cooper said with grim satisfaction. We need to move faster, Walker urged. Once they realize they're losing, they'll get desperate. In the central command center of the Alturian flagship, Kyle made a decision. Prepare the void catalyst, he ordered, ignoring the shocked expressions of his officers. Grand Executor, his second-in-command protested. The catalyst is untested in planetary conditions. The resulting singularity could— I know what it could do, Kyle snapped. If we cannot have this world, neither shall these. Primitives, begin the charging sequence. Back on Earth, Dr. Reynolds monitored the battle from Lunar Command, tracking the effectiveness of her Orpheus devices. It's working better than we hoped, she reported to Admiral Drake. 80% of their fleet has lost shield capability. But her celebration was cut short when sensors detected a massive energy buildup in the Alturian flagship. Something's happening, she said, her voice tense. They're channeling power to a system we haven't seen before. Drake studied the readings, his expression darkening. Get me Major Riley. Now. In space, the battle had turned decisively in humanity's favor. Nearly half the Alturian fleet had been destroyed or disabled, with minimal losses on the human side. Riley was coordinating the next phase of the attack when Drake's urgent message came through. Major, we're detecting what appears to be a doomsday weapon powering up on the flagship. All analyses suggest it could generate a localized black hole. You need to take out that ship immediately. Riley's blood ran cold. Acknowledged. Defiance will lead the assault. He turned to his weapons officer. Redirect all fire to the flagship. Contact Walker's team. They need to get out of there now. The human fleet pivoted, concentrating their attack on the Alturian command ship. But the flagship had the strongest defenses in the alien armada, and even with its shields compromised, its hull remained largely intact under the barrage. Inside, Walker received the emergency extraction order just as they reached an external access port. His team prepared to board their stealth craft, but Vex turned away. Not coming, Walker asked. The creature's red eyes gleamed with deadly purpose. Must finish. Hunt. Kal. Dies today. Walker hesitated, then nodded in understanding. Good. Hunting. As his team boarded the extraction vessel, Walker made a split-second decision. Cooper, Garcia. Get everyone back to the Nightshade. I'm going with Vex. Captain, that's suicide, Garcia protested. Maybe, but if that weapon activates, we're all dead anyway. He handed her the data module with the intelligence they'd gathered. Make sure this gets to command. Without waiting for further argument, Walker turned and followed Vex back into the depths of the enemy ship, toward a confrontation that would determine the fate of Earth. Major Riley watched from the bridge of the Defiance as the combined firepower of Earth's fleet hammered the Alturian flagship. Despite their best efforts, the massive vessel remained operational, its vital systems protected by redundant armor, layers that even the Orpheus devices couldn't penetrate. Energy readings from their weapon are approaching critical levels, reported his science officer. Estimated time to activation, 7 minutes. Riley clenched his jaw. Get me Admiral Drake. When Drake's face appeared on the view screen, Riley didn't waste time. Sir, conventional weapons aren't cutting it. Request permission to deploy the Nova package. There was a heavy silence. The Nova package was Earth's last resort, a prototype, antimatter bomb with enough power to vaporize a small moon. Using it this close to Earth carried enormous risks. Do it, Drake finally ordered. But get your ship to minimum safe distance. Riley nodded grimly. It's been an honor, sir. As the Defiance prepared to deliver its deadly payload, Captain Walker and Vex were fighting their way through the flagship toward the bridge. The Alturian crew, panicked by the unprecedented losses their fleet was suffering, offered less resistance than expected. Many had abandoned their posts, fleeing to escape pods. They never faced defeat. Vex growled with satisfaction. Don't know how to fight now when losing. Walker checked his weapons charge. How much farther to the bridge? 2 levels. Must hurry. Feel ship. Changing. The alien was right. The flagship's interior was transforming, walls shifting and corridors realigning as power was diverted to the void catalyst. The deck beneath their feet vibrated with ominous energy. On the bridge, Kal watched with cold fury as his Invincible armada disintegrated around him. Centuries of conquest across multiple galaxies, and now these primitives, these humans, had done what no other species had managed. Catalyst at 60%, reported one of the few officers who remained at their post. The targeting system is locked on the human homeworld. Excellent, Kal hissed. They will learn the price of defiance in their final moments. The door to the bridge exploded inward, and through the smoke came a nightmare from Kal's past. A Corthan hunter, one of the species he had ordered exterminated years ago. Beside it stood a human in battle armor. Grand Executor Kal, Walker announced, weapon raised. In the name of Earth and all the worlds you've destroyed, we're here to shut you down. Kal's guards moved to protect him, but Vex was faster, a blur of lethal motion that tore through the Alturian soldiers with savage efficiency. Walker provided covering fire, taking down 2 more guards as he advanced toward the main control console. Outside, the Defiance approached deployment range for the Nova package. Riley had ordered most of his crew to evacuate, remaining with only a skeleton team to ensure the mission's completion. Package armed and ready, reported his weapons officer, voice steady despite the knowledge that they might not survive what came next. Deploy on my mark, Riley ordered, watching as the distance counter ticked down. Inside the flagship, Walker reached the control console for the void catalyst. His training hadn't prepared him for the alien interface, but Garcia's download of the Alturian systems gave him enough to work with. Catalyst at 80%, he read from the display. How do I shut it down? Vex was locked in combat with Kal himself, the 2 aliens grappling in a deadly struggle at the center of the bridge. Cannot shut down, Vex managed between blows. Must overload. Walker understood. The catalyst couldn't be deactivated, but it could be redirected. Working frantically, he altered the targeting parameters, changing the focus point from Earth to the flagship itself. Kal, sensing what was happening, broke away from Vex with desperate strength. Stop him, he commanded his remaining officers. Too late. Walker completed the reprogramming and locked the system. It's done, he announced. This ship is going to collapse in on itself, taking you with it. Kal's face contorted with rage. Then you die with me, human? The alien commander lunged at Walker, but Vex intercepted him, the 2 crashing into a control panel in a tangle of limbs and fury. Walker, Vex shouted. Escape pod, Section 3, go! Walker hesitated. What about you? The alien hunter's red eyes met his. Hunt ends here, my choice. Understanding, Walker nodded once. Your people will be remembered, I promise. He raced for the escape pod. Walker activated his comlink. Walker to Defiance. Abort Nova deployment. Repeat. Abort Nova deployment. The flagship is set to self-destruct. Riley received the transmission with shock. Confirmed, Captain. Aborting. Deployment. He turned to his bridge crew. Get us clear of the blast radius. All ships. Maximum distance. The Earth fleet pulled back as the Alturian flagship began to glow with unnatural energy, the void catalyst turning inward upon itself. Light bent around, the massive vessel as space-time began to warp. Walker reached the escape pod with seconds to spare, launching away from the doomed ship. Through the viewport, he watched as the flagship imploded, collapsing into a pinpoint of intense light before disappearing entirely, taking with it the architect of countless genocides and the last hunter of a destroyed world. The remaining Alturian ships, leaderless and demoralized, began to retreat, jumping to faster-than-light speed in a desperate bid to escape the unexpected human victory. As Walker's escape pod was recovered by the Nightshade, he looked out at the debris field that had once been the Invincible alien fleet. Humanity had done the impossible. They had faced extinction and emerged victorious. But the cost had been high, and Walker knew this was only the beginning. The Alturians would return, and Earth would need to be ready. 3 months after the Battle of Earth, humanity was transformed. The victory over the Alturians had united the planet as nothing before, erasing old conflicts in the face of a common threat. Every nation contributed to the new defense initiative, Project Phoenix, which incorporated the captured alien technology into Earth's growing fleet. Admiral Drake stood in the massive construction bay beneath the Atlantic Ocean, watching as workers swarmed over the skeletal frame of what would become Earth's first true battleship. The Vex, named after the alien hunter who had given his life to defeat Cal, would be twice the size of any previous human vessel. "Impressive, isn't it?" said Captain Walker, now promoted to commander, as he joined Drake at the observation rail. His face bore new scars from his escape, badges of honor in humanity's first interstellar war. "It's just the beginning," Drake replied. "The Alturians will return, probably with reinforcements. We need to be ready." Dr. Reynolds approached with a holographic tablet displaying her latest research. "The good news is, we've fully decoded their propulsion technology. The better news is, I think we can improve it." Since the battle, Reynolds had become a celebrity, her understanding of Alturian technology making her the most valuable scientist on the planet. She had assembled a team of the brightest minds from every continent, working around the clock to adapt the alien tech for human use. "How soon until the fleet is ready?" Drake asked. 6 months for the first 10 ships, Reynolds answered. "Another year for the full complement of 50. Walker frowned. "Will that be enough?" "It has to be," Drake said. "But we're not just playing defense anymore." He led them to a secure briefing room where General Wilson waited with Captain Tom Fletcher, formerly Major Riley's second-in-command, and now captain of the Defiance after Riley's promotion to fleet commander. "Operation Lighthouse is ready to proceed," Wilson announced once the room was secured. "We've selected the locations for our early warning outposts based on the star charts recovered from the Alturian flagship." The holographic display showed a network of stations positioned strategically along the projected approach routes the Alturians would most likely use for their return. Each outpost will be equipped with long-range sensors and an Orpheus transmitter, Fletcher explained. "If the Alturians show up, we'll know immediately and we'll have a nasty surprise waiting for them." Walker studied the star chart, noticing several markers beyond the defensive perimeter. "What are these?" Drake's expression turned grim. "That's the other part of our strategy. Intelligence gathered from the Alturian databases indicates they've conquered numerous species who might become allies if liberated." "You're talking about taking the fight to them," Walker realized. "Offensive operations deep in their territory." "Precisely," Drake confirmed. "Small strike teams, highly mobile, using stealth technology derived from your mission. Their objective will be to contact potential resistance movements and provide them with Orpheus technology." The implications were staggering. Humanity, barely recovered from nearly being conquered, was planning to challenge the Alturians across multiple star systems. Who's leading these missions? Walker asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Drake met his gaze steadily. I need someone who's been inside an Alturian ship. Someone who's faced them and won. I need you, Commander. Walker absorbed this in silence. The prospect was daunting but also undeniably exciting. Humans venturing beyond their solar system, not as refugees or victims, but as liberators. When do I start? He asked simply. Your ship will be ready in 2 weeks, Reynolds said. The Shadow Strike, our first true stealth vessel, built specifically for deep penetration missions. Later, as Walker gazed out at the night sky from the observation deck, he contemplated the strange path that had brought humanity to this moment. 3 months ago, they had been on the brink of extinction. Now they were preparing to take the fight to the stars. Fletcher joined him, offering a rare bottle of pre-war whiskey. To new beginnings, he proposed. Walker accepted the toast. And to those who didn't make it to see this. They drank in companionable silence before Fletcher spoke again. Do you ever wonder about them? The Alturians? What made them what they are? I've reviewed all the data we recovered, Walker replied. Their civilization is ancient, tens of thousands of years old. Somewhere along the way, they stopped evolving and started conquering. They believe it's their destiny to rule. And now? Walker's expression hardened. Now they've met humanity, and we're going to show them a new definition of destiny. Across the solar system, humanity's transformation continued. Mars colonies expanded to support the war effort. The belt asteroids became mining operations for ship construction. Jupiter's moons hosted testing grounds for weapons based on Alturian principles. And beyond Neptune, at the edge of the solar system, the first interstellar scout ships prepared to venture into the unknown, not just to defend, but to forge alliances that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. The message going out across human communications was clear. The Alturians had awakened a sleeping giant. And history would never be the same. Commander James Walker stood on the bridge of the Shadow Strike, watching as his crew made final preparations for their first jump into Alturian space. The ship was a marvel of hybrid technology, human ingenuity enhanced by alien science, sleek, deadly, and nearly undetectable to conventional sensors. All systems green, Commander, reported his XO, Lieutenant Maya Jones. Jump calculations complete. Walker nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. This mission would take them farther from Earth than any human had traveled before, to Proxima Centauri, where intelligence suggested an enslaved species called the Talarians might be receptive to rebellion. Begin jump sequence, he ordered. The new drive engaged with barely a vibration, nothing like the violent transitions of early human FTL experiments. Space itself seemed to fold around them, stars streaking past in a dazzling display before resolving into new configurations. Jump complete, Jones announced. We've arrived at Proxima Centauri. The view screen showed a red dwarf star with several planets. One of them, a rocky world larger than Earth, hosted the Talarian homeworld and an Alturian control station. Stealth systems holding, reported the tactical officer. No indication they've detected us. Walker allowed himself a small smile. Take us in, Lieutenant. Let's make some friends. Back on Earth, Admiral Drake confronted a crisis. Long-range sensors had detected a new Alturian fleet assembling at the edge of charted space, larger than the one they'd defeated, with ship designs they hadn't encountered before. They're adapting, Dr. Reynolds observed as they studied the intelligence. These vessels appear to have modified shield generators, likely an attempt to counter the Orpheus device. Drake's expression remained stoic. Can you overcome the modifications? Reynolds hesitated. Possibly, but we need more data on the specific changes they've made. Then we'll get it for you, Drake decided. Operation Spyglass is now priority 1. Across the solar system, Earth's new fleet mobilized. The Defiance, now upgraded with Alturian-derived technology, led a task force toward the assembly point of the alien armada. Their mission? Capture an enemy scout ship intact enough to study its shield modifications. Major General Riley, commanding the task force from the Defiance, knew the risks. They would be outnumbered and potentially outgunned if discovered. "We go in quiet, we get what we need, we get out," he reminded his captains during the final briefing. No heroes today. Near Proxima Centauri, Walker's team had made contact with the Tellarian resistance, quadrupedal beings with remarkable technological aptitude despite generations of Alturian oppression. Their leader, Morrow, had initially been skeptical of the humans' offer. "Why would you risk yourselves for us?" she had asked. "What do you gain?" "Allies," Walker answered simply. "The Alturians have ruled through division. We intend to defeat them through unity." Now, 2 weeks later, Walker stood with Morrow in the hidden rebel base as his engineers taught the Tellarians how to construct their own Orpheus devices. "The Alturians believe their technology makes them gods," Walker explained. "But every system has vulnerabilities if you know where to look." Morrow's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. A gesture Walker had learned indicated deep thought. "For centuries, we believed resistance was futile. Your arrival has given my people something we had lost. Hope." An alarm sounded from Walker's communicator. "Commander," Jones's voice came through, urgent but controlled. "Alturian patrol detected approaching the planet. 3 ships, destroyer class." Walker exchanged looks with Morrow. "Earlier than expected. Are they responding to our presence?" "Unknown, but their trajectory suggests a routine patrol." "This could be an opportunity," Morrow suggested, her voice taking on a new edge. "With your Orpheus technology and our knowledge of their patrol routes." Walker understood immediately. "You want to launch the rebellion now. Capture those ships." 3 destroyers would give us control of this sector," Morrow confirmed. "Enough to protect ourselves while other worlds rise up." It wasn't the mission plan. Walker was supposed to deliver the technology and intelligence, then return to Earth. Direct intervention risked the Shadow Strike and its crew. But looking at the determined faces of the Tellarian fighters, Walker made his decision. "Lieutenant Jones, bring the Shadow Strike to combat readiness. We're going hunting." In deep space, Riley's task force had located an Alturian scout ship, separated from the main fleet. The Defiance moved silently into position, using the improved stealth systems to mask its approach. "Target locked," reported the weapons officer. "Orpheus device calibrated for disabling shot only." Riley gave the order, "Fire." The device activated, sending its disruption wave toward the Alturian vessel. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then the alien ship's engines flickered and died, its systems temporarily paralyzed. "Boarding teams, go," Riley commanded. Marine dropships detached from the Defiance, racing toward the disabled craft. They had minutes at most before other Alturian vessels noticed the scout's silence.